We've gotten 400 new leads and 100 new appointments for a cosmetic dentist, driven $41,000 in ticket sales for a comedian, generated $40,000 in revenue for a dental supply company, and helped dance companies sell out their shows. Regardless of industry, we've helped clients get results. From startups to sold out shows, we blend creative storytelling with data-driven tactics to deliver real results in any field. Welcome to Ask Vision Paradox, your go-to podcast for social media and content marketing insights. We're here to answer your questions and share the strategies that have worked for us. What is the most innovative way you've repurposed content across multiple platforms for a client? And how did it help increase their engagement and reach? The way I like to work with clients is I like to think about the different ways of how we can tell the story around the certain services or the certain aspects of the brand, the service, the company, whether it's testimonials, behind the scenes, podcasts, even more of the behind the scenes, even Q&A. There's a lot of different multiple stories. And within that, there's multiple ways we can iterate that. So for example, if we do a testimonial, it can be the usual talking head testimonial. It could be next to the doctor or next to the real estate agent, and it could be in front of the location or wherever it is. But it could be a talking head video is usually pretty good because it's coming straight from the horse's mouth. It's the person talking about their experience. Another way we're going to add flavor to that is to follow the whole journey. Now, that's going to be a little bit more involved. When we were working with a dental company where they specialized in helping people in a condition called TMJ, we had the opportunity to follow a handful of patients from where they first started all the way to the end. So when they did their final testimonial video, we had B-roll of them coming in, doing their first evaluation, all the way to their first treatment, all the way to the last treatment. That adds a whole layer in terms of telling that story. So going into repurposing it, I personally think I have maybe kind of a crazy way of approaching it. For example, if we do the talking head video, it goes back into several ways I want to approach it. One, the first thing I would look on each platform, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts. I would see how other, say, dentists are doing it, or how other fitness coaches are doing it, or how other dancers are doing it, just to get inspiration, see what the top posts are. Because why try to reinvent the wheel? If there's data of what's working, might as well use that for ourselves. The next thing I also take into consideration is, I know some clients like to have their brand colors. I know Vision Paradox and Temper Tantrum, my companies, we have our own brand colors, but sometimes that doesn't always work. Sometimes the typeface that's popular on TikTok works better. But the main thing is I'm trying to make it as native to what's working to the platform, but also kind of appeasing what clients like, which is sometimes they want the logo, sometimes they want to make sure that their brand colors are in there. The next thing I would probably do is I would do a lot of different iterations of the hook. So the hook can either be the first 5 seconds, the first 3 seconds of what they say, or it can be the first thing that they see on the screen, or it could be the first action that they see. For example, if the action would be useful if it's like a dance video or something. But if this is, just say again, a testimonial or even a podcast, it would have the first 3 seconds have to be something that really engages them. So the way I see that is either that's the first thing they read on the text, or the first thing they say. So I create like several different versions of that hook. So far, we find out what's working on the different platforms. We get the brand colors. We make different hooks. From there, I make different versions of and combinations. So sometimes I do the white background with black typeface combined with the client's brand colors for the captions. Or I do the hook will be the brand color, and then the captions will be a very common TikTok typeface or font. That sounds a lot, and honestly, it is. It kind of gets tedious, but just from experience, it does not really matter. The main reason I went with that first step, I haven't even talked about other iterations yet, but the main reason I would go with that is because, based off experience I've seen on other profiles, people don't even bat an eye if you repost some things. But the thing is, it cannot be the same thing. It can't just be like version 1 and you re-upload version 1. And essentially what I'm sharing is version 1, version 1A, version 1B, version 1C. And from what I've seen in the data on our end, it doesn't really matter no one's bat an eye of like, oh, is this a re-upload? You posted this already. If anything, it just garners more views. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it misses. From our findings, like there is a preference on typeface, but like on some of it, but for most of it, it's kind of like it just seems like it's just consumed as if it was another type of the content. So yeah, essentially, and this is just like like as I was saying, this is essentially version 1A or version 1, which is just the simple talking head, caption and hook. Cool. And then ba 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 ba, and then that already right there, you probably have 4 to 6 different versions you can post on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. I would approach each one differently. Like for example, on Facebook and YouTube or even TikTok, I can probably post those every single day without any sort of detriment to any engagement. If anything, it's either the same or some just blow up. But this goes to me just maximizing the content, but just kind of remixing it, because my thesis on this is like commercials or songs on the radio. For those of you guys who listen to the radio, sometimes we see the same commercials over and over and over. Sometimes we skip, sometimes we get numb to it, but we still see it and we get familiar with it. The same thing with top 40 songs when people used to play it on the radio. Sometimes they would play the same damn song 3 to 4 times in the same radio station, and sometimes you'd switch radio stations and they're all playing the same song. My approach is the same, because it kind of sucks to create a piece of content that will provide value, and sometimes the timing of it just doesn't stick, and then you just repost it at a different time, slightly change it up, iterate, which leads me to the next thing. So now you're going to version 2B or 2A, which will have now the B-roll version of it, which you can add if you have a lot of B-roll in your hard drive, or if you've recorded a lot, because I document a lot of stuff. So I can make multiple versions of that B-roll. So I can make a 2A all the way through 2Z if I wanted, but that just gets crazy. So that you have like a regular talking head version, you have the B-roll version, and if you want, you can go into like version 3, which is leveraging trending music. So what I would normally do is I go on Instagram looking for trending sounds, or go to TikTok or even YouTube, and I just get some of the top trending sounds there, put it in the timeline, and there we go. I have version 3A all the way to 3G. Depends on how much you want to iterate, but from there just from this example alone, you have probably close to 40 pieces of content. I've gone all the way up to 50, depending on how you want to iterate. But what this does now is you have a lot of different versions of the same content, and what I really think is really maximizing it and telling the story in multiple different ways, and that's just through video. Okay, we haven't even gotten to talking about into converting all this stuff into different versions of a carousel or blog posts, or using it as an email for an email marketing newsletter. Just to go a little bit more into examples of repurposing content, I do a podcast updating what happens with my companies. And what I do there is I take those transcripts and then I convert it into an email newsletter. I don't have to rewrite everything exactly. I just get the bullet points. I give it to Max, who helps do the copywriting. But we essentially just repurpose the content of just me talking like this, and then we email it out to our subscribers. That is, I think, my innovative way of repurposing content. Again, multiple different stories, multiple ways of iterating, just giving yourself multiple at-bats for the thing you took time to create or document. Because the way I view it also is like, just because you posted it once doesn't mean like all of your followers saw it. They might see it next week if you share it. They might see it next month if you reshare it. Also, taking into consideration like what works with the platform. I know for YouTube and on TikTok, I've done this similar format, and it's both grown it, and there hasn't been any pushback from it. And like I said, there's either some hits or misses, but the majority have been pretty good. And you'll be surprised, like one of the videos that I shared, that's literally like probably a version 1C of something, blew up even more compared to the others, and all it was changes in typeface. To answer the part on like how often I would post, because we say we have 40 different versions of it, that's kind of like crazy because like that's me really testing and how far I can go with it. But at minimum, I go like 4 to 6, and again, depending on the platform, will depend on how aggressive I am with these posts. There have been days, for example, on YouTube Shorts, I post the same thing at the same time every single day. No one better than I. It just increased the views and engagement. For TikTok, same thing. For Instagram, like once a month, once every 3 months, because I just think it's a slightly more popular platform, and I think it just makes sense for me. This is just my hypothesis, just to give a little bit more variety, because I feel like people would get more fatigued on that quicker. But who knows? I haven't even tried that yet. There's literally an Instagram profile I see post the same thing every single day, and it's close to 80,000 followers. So I've not experimented on there yet. And same thing with Facebook. I'm very aggressive on that. I'm posting 4 to 5 times a day. At one point, I was doing the same thing every other day, but now I'm doing a kind of cascading effect, like once every other week at slightly different times. So, for example, if I'm gonna be posting something on Monday at 6 a.m., it would be next week at Tuesday at 9 a.m. There's no crazy like science or data on that. It's just my hypothesis of like people watch content at different times. So how it helped with increasing reach and engagement was that you gave yourself multiple at bats. I would really say you maximized a piece of content, and you give yourself an opportunity to reshare that message, just slightly tweaked every single time. Because again, based off our experience, no one's better than I. People still consume it. People still really like the content, and you just never know if just sharing a different version of it might just blow it up.